Hey, what's going on? It's Taka Perry here. I'm a producer, songwriter, mixing engineer, and you're watching Break It Down. When you look at me, does it make you smile? So we're here at my studio. It's called The Nest. This is where all the music, all the magic happens. I sit in here all the time. My name means hawk in Japanese, so hawk, the nest. I sit here all the time. It's the nest, welcome. I've been a big fan of PNAU for ages, seen them live a bunch of times. And so when I got the call up to do this remix, I was super stoked first and foremost. And then secondly, I started thinking, what can I do to this track to really do it justice? What drew me into Stranger Love is like this juxtaposition between, you know, the club dance vibes and then Budjerah's beautiful vocals. Like it's such a cool match. So as with every remix, it always starts with going through the stems and working out what parts am I going to use, what parts am I going to change up. And for me, I love to, when I'm remixing, to try and change this track as much as possible, to try and, you know, flip the emotion and bring a totally different angle to the song rather than kind of just build or slightly tweak what's already there. So the remix started with obviously Budjerah's lead vocal stem. I kind of placed that in and tempo mapped it across the song. And then I was just kind of playing around with different samples, and I wanted to have like a sample loop that the track revolves around. As with every other song, I kind of just go on a rabbit hole hunt through my hard drive and look for all the different vinyl samples I have lying around. And this is the one that ended up being kind of, I guess, the backbone on which the rest of the production builds across. So I'll just play that sample. And so all I really did was take like the end part of the sample and just stutter it a bunch of times. So you kind of get this, and then there's like this tiny little gap, and the tiny little gap makes it feel like the sample is like cut from vinyl. It's, you know, looping around and it's not got a perfect looping point. So every time it loops around, and then bring in the rest of the bits and pieces. The next thing I did was start fleshing out a bit of a drum arrangement. With drums, I love to, I guess, mix electronic sounds and like organic, like real drum kits. So a lot of times I'll be using like a mixture of electronic like snares and kicks, and then layering that in with drum breaks. So I had this drum break. The cool thing with drum breaks is because it's played by a real person and not programmed into the computer, you always get these kind of fluctuations in tempo. And once you start, I guess, you know, building the track around that rhythm, you get like a really natural, non-robotic sort of feel to the song. Ordinary world, you're unique in every way. Obviously a bunch of things come in on this verse. So on the verse we have a bunch of atmospherics and some of the chord progressions start coming through. So there's this nylon guitar that I played in that kind of drives the downward chord progression in the verses. So this is all very, very low key at the moment. And the chorus is kind of where I started just putting everything in. Obviously we've gone from like just a drum break and a clap, we've got the whole beat in here now. And then there's a whole bunch of different synths, so if I kind of solo the synths and go through what's happening. There's more happening in each chorus than the last, and that's something I love to do with all the songs I produce is rather than having every chorus a kind of copy-paste situation, there's like this evolving journey where all these subtle elements keep getting added to the track. So the first chorus is pretty simple. We've got, you know, just the full drums, like an 808 bass here, just kind of like influenced by a lot of the trap hip-hop I make. So that drops back into the verse. We've got like a little flanger automation. I love using all these kind of weird modulation effects and just kind of like trying to deconstruct the samples as much as possible. Especially if you're taking, you know, the same sample loop and kind of running it in the background of the whole song. It's good to sort of have these effects that automate in and out and sort of keep the feel fresh. I can't think of a stranger love. Alright, there's a new synth part in this second chorus, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the song. It's this like trance lead almost. And that just starts running in the back of the chorus, and it works for some reason. I think at that point I was making like a lot of like hyperpop music, and that would have definitely influenced like the real kind of rhythmic nature of it. It's literally just like the default patch on this plugin. It's the Oberheim OBXA from Arturia, and it's just like a sawtooth with heaps of like unison detune on it. A lot of these fast rhythmic synths, because the song's kind of a slowed down, chilled out version of production compared to the original, I still wanted to make sure that it doesn't feel slow, it doesn't drag too much, so we've got all these kind of slow atmospheric samples and strummed out guitars, but then more of these kind of hectic, rhythmic and arpeggiated synths that still keep the pace going. So this is the bridge. It's a pretty long bridge. I really wanted to like juice as much as I could, you know, before that final drop comes in. So I kind of took one part of Budjerah's vocal, and I've just got this cut here as well. When you look at, and that cut happens at the same time as the main sample. Everything kind of just cuts every 4 bars, and that's kind of, you know, giving that vinyl sample skipping back to the start feeling. And so it just repeats that, but each time there's new things that come in. So a bunch of new things come in here. Most notably like a big string section. And just to give it like this real emotional pull before we go into the last chorus. That's just session strings from Native Instruments, just doing this whole string section. And then we've got a bunch of vocals that I recorded in because, you know, the lead is just one vocal layer, and because the chords had changed, some of the existing background vocals from the original track weren't necessarily gelling, so kind of kept Budjerah's lead in there and tracked a bunch of background vocals myself. So once we go into this last chorus, we've got this kind of big 3-part harmony stack that I put in. So that's one part that I recorded, and then the other is this, it's like an ad-lib. So both of them. And if I play all of that together in context, this last part is just all guns firing, everything from all the parts in the track just coming together for one big final moment. So my next single is coming out very, very soon. I spent a lot of time during lockdown working on it. I'm really excited about it and really excited about 2022 because there's so much music coming on the way. A lot of things I can't say to you right now, but lots of things to look out for in the horizon.